Ladies and gentlemen, in this Red Gaming Telecom video we're going to be discussing a recent interview with an indie developer who's been discussing the PlayStation 4 hardware as well as the indie process working with Sony and much more besides. The studio in question is Ragtag Studios, and the co-founder, his name is Chris Cobb, has been under the proverbial spotlight. So the first question that was asked is that the title that we're working on, Raise the Dead, is actually not coming out on the Xbox One, but only the PlayStation 4 and a few other systems as well. And why is that? Why didn't they develop for the Xbox One? And Chris responded with, "We haven't decided to skip the Xbox One. We're a small team of only 3 people with nearly a zero budget. So we need to keep the numbers of platforms we can commit to a reasonable number. We would love nothing more than to bring the games of the Xbox One, as well as other platforms after release, on the platforms we've already committed to, which are the PlayStation 4, the PC, the Mac, as well as Linux." So he also pointed out that the fact that the Unity's support for the PlayStation 4 was announced pretty much came at just the right time for them to start porting the title over. Now, another question that was asked is regarding how the title is stacking up versus the PC version, specifically on the GPU side of things. Chris responded, "I suppose it depends on your definition of obsolete, but the lifespan of consoles approaching 10 years, there's no doubt that within a few years the PC GPU will run past what the PS4 ships with. But as have been proven with the PS3, the more times developers have to spend with the system, the more they'll get out of it. I'm sure that towards the end of the life cycle, we will not be able to compete with the PC counterparts, but they should be close enough for all but the strictest of graphical snobs." Next of all, what about developing the PlayStation 4 version with 1080p and 60 frames per second? Chris responded, "We'd love for that to happen. We'd love for it to be running at 1080p/60, but we can't commit to anything yet. Even the bigger studios with teams of 500 people are having a hard time hitting that target. So we'll have to see where we are when we get closer to launch." Now, this has been a problem, out of quote, this has been a problem for a lot of titles, and you may be very aware that the Xbox One, of course, is being hammered right now in the media because of the fact that various titles are only running in 720p/60 frames a second. And as we've discussed numerous times over, there's multiple reasons behind this, but suffice to say that optimization is a really big deal. Studios, just quite simply put, haven't had the time to understand it, and smaller indie studios, one of the issues with them, and I do love them, but the issue, of course, is they don't have the same resources. So it's kind of like you'd expect automatically that an indie game would run at, no problem at 1080p 60 frames a second. But you've got to remember that there's kind of like a seesaw effect, right? The game is definitely less graphically impressive. It's less, has less texture quality, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is that they're also staffed with less people and with basically a very low budget. And so the problem is that you can't say, well, this game has, worse graphics than this game, so therefore, that the worse graphics will automatically mean the game will run faster and definitely at 1080p. It's actually a case of, well, that still requires optimization. And if you've got fewer people to do that, I mean, just think about it, 3 people. Yeah, that's not many people at all. I can tell you from experience of actually running RGT with basically 3 people, and most of the time just 2 people, it's a hell of a lot of work, because I'm assuming these guys probably have to do other stuff to pay the bills as well. And so it's a lot of work to run pretty much that, design everything, do all the animations, the storyboarding, everything that's required, and then of course optimize it for free for multiple platforms. They're not just doing it, of course, for the PlayStation 4, which is understandable. They need as good revenue as possible, and I imagine the Unity support on these titles is pretty damn important, because the Unity engine actually makes it a lot easier to produce the games. All of this said, Obviously, the PlayStation 4 does make it easier to optimize. We know the Xbox One's having the problems with the ES RAM, most likely, but the PS4 makes it a bit easier because of the larger memory pool. But even so, you know, it doesn't take a particular genius to figure out that, well, you need enough people to be able to optimize all the versions. You can't just give one version all of the attention. Regardless, it does look a pretty cool game. I'd actually encourage you guys to check it out. It looks pretty awesome. So hopefully you've enjoyed the relatively short video, but I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.